Good morning. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you are able to make time in your busy schedule. I mean, you got to start off by telling us a bit about your background, because to become head of school means you have had to have a real dedication in education for some years to get to this point. Tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, so I'll start by saying that I'm a Philly native who is a transplant here to Seattle. I think most people are. You might be one of the only people I've met recently who's actually from Seattle. I became a teacher because my life was positively impacted by teachers. You can't see because I'm sitting down, but I'm about 6'1". I'm a very tall person. I'm actually the shortest person in my family. 2 brothers, my dad, my mom, all taller than me. But when I was in middle school, I moved from the Philadelphia area out to the suburbs of Allentown, and I was the only student of color in my school for multiple grades above me and behind me. And it was in middle school when I moved, and I started to turn into myself, literally, like physically reducing my size, shrinking. And I had a teacher who saw something in me, and she was the drama teacher, and we would practice, and she would say, "Brenda, take up all of your space." Right. And when she would walk down the hall and she'd see me like this, she'd go, "Brenda." And I'd be like, and so when she said to me, "Hey, you should think about the debate team," I said, "Okay." When she said, "Hey, have you thought about running for student council?" I said, "Okay." Right? Because this person saw something in me. I also had a strong foundation of Black women and Black men who were raising me to be as strong as I could in myself. And all of that together helped me become the first person in my family to graduate from college. And it was no surprise to me, maybe a little bit to my family. They wanted me to be a doctor or a banker or something that made a little bit more money. But I became a teacher because it was the teachers in my life who made a difference for me and helped me get on this path to help educate and make a difference for other people. So yeah, I put in the work. I was a teacher for a number of years, went to graduate school to become an administrator, was an administrator at a number of schools. And then when Seattle Girls School, when that opportunity came up, it was big and fast. I had known about the school in advance. I had seen some of the work that was happening there. And I knew that that was a place where what I believe about education, what I believe about how we connect with kids was going to be happening. And so I jumped.
Wow. I mean, such a powerful story. I personally, it's one of my favorite ways of starting interviews, because you never know what brought somebody to where they are to this day. Tell us a bit about some of the impact that you had as a teacher and all of your previous experience that you're bringing to SGS.
Yes. So, the thing about working at a private school is that you're in a community where people choose to be there, right? And so I think what's powerful about that is that people come together around the mission of the school, and there is some selectivity, right? As a private school, we get to connect with people, and they get to connect with us to see, is this the right fit for the student, for the family, and for the school. I started out in public schools, and I think I'm really grateful that I did, because it was a really powerful example for me of how you have to educate everyone who comes through the door, whether they believe in what you're doing or not, right? You have to find a way to connect to who they are, connect them to what you're doing so that they can see themselves moving forward, even if they don't see it when they walk right through the doors of your classroom. And I think those are the lessons that stick with me the most, the ways in which, as a first-year teacher in Baltimore City Public Schools, where I had, very few resources. I was a Spanish teacher, making up the material as I went along, up there making a fool out of myself in front of the kids, trying to get them to, you want to speak Spanish. Spanish is awesome. Come on, let's do this. And bringing that enthusiasm for learning and seeing people for who they are and how they walk through the door. I think those are the two biggest things that I took from my broad experience and brought to Seattle Girls School, for sure.
Well, I think it's just important. I was sharing with Brenda, y'all, my little sister, shout out to you, Tracy, Michael. My little sister went to SGS, right? And I realized that that's where she started to really cement some of her lifelong friendships. There's something really specific about middle school years, as you were just sharing in your own experience, that really shape who you are. You take some of that confidence or insecurity insecurities, you take those things into high school and beyond. And oftentimes you got to be intentional to work through them. But I really saw how SGS was impactful to my sister. And, you know, one of the things that unfortunately began to trend was they started with a large population of young Black women. And some of the folks that I know that when some of those original cohorts were like, man, if you look at the school now, it's not really the same. Tell us a bit about some of these new approaches that you're bringing to SGS.
Yeah, well, I mean, what you're mentioning is real, right? And it's real not just for SGS, but it's real for the Central District, right? 20 years ago, when SGS was being founded, the founding team decided to locate the school at MLK and Jackson because that was the community that we wanted to be based in. All of the joy, all the excellence, all of the fight, right? Those were the lessons that for an all-girls school and a school serving girls and gender nonconforming students, we wanted to make sure those were the messages that were being heard by our students, that were being shared and echoed in the community, because as a school, we use the community as an extension of our classroom. So 20 years ago, the population of Black people in the Central District was probably close to 40%, whereas now it's less than 10%. And I think we've seen a similar trend in our enrollment at SGS. When the school first started in those first couple of years, the majority of our students of color were Black students. And now the majority of our students of color are multiracial students, which of course reflects the reality of Seattle. And we serve students from, I think, 32 or 33 different zip codes in the Seattle region. So it's a broad reach that we have and a diverse group of students who come into our school. About 40% of the students currently are students of color, but most of them identify as multiracial, not Black. And it's something that we are certainly thinking about and trying to think broadly about. As I shared with the 32 or 33 zip codes for our school, most of the students still come from 98144, 98122. We're starting to get more students from 98118, right? We're starting to extend south because that's where our Black families went, right? We're really excited about the light rail. That's probably one of the biggest things that we're looking forward to, because our new location is at Massachusetts and 25th, right? So right around the corner, right across the street from NAM, right? And right around the corner from where the new light rail station is coming in at Judkins Park. And we are already laying the foundation so that we can have relationships with families who live further south so that they know who we are and they will feel comfortable when transportation isn't an issue, because it is in this city, for them to be able to send their students to SGS. It's also important to us that we don't create relationships that are one way. You know what I mean? There are a lot of programs out there that are like, how can we get into these communities and get great students, right? That's not who we are. We're trying to build relationships with community partners who are trying to help support students. And sometimes we have relationships where we don't actually end up getting students from those programs, but we still try to support them. And we still try to uplift what they do. And that's important to us as we're working to cement our footprint in the CD, as well as to become a real partner, for the community as well.
I think all of that is super important. And you are absolutely right in terms of the changing demographics, which does make sense. And I appreciate the approach you all are taking from a relational perspective, right? We understand in all schools, the kids are the bag, right? There's like, you get a certain amount of dollars for every student and scholar that is in your institution, but it can't be a transactional thing. And I think some schools approach it that way. But because you have this private school environment, you're able to really change that approach and be intentional in building relationship with families and community partners to also understand some of the ways that you can approach building relationship. So I really appreciate that. I think that's the key to any kind of educational institution. Lastly, what are some of the programs that you're excited about? I mean, you got this new building, this new school. Clearly, you guys are doing something phenomenal coming up this weekend. I want you to be able to share that and tell us a little bit about some of the things that you're, excited about in terms of highlights of programming.
Yeah, so SGS is all about helping our students see themselves in their futures now, right? So we have curricular things and programs where our students are challenged to be doctors today, and they have a medical exam that they have to pass. They're challenged to be lawyers today, and we partner to have our students actually in a courtroom doing a mock trial. So what we're really looking forward to is expanding and deepening that. And what the building does that we couldn't do before is we had to go out. We had to go out into the community and use the amazing resources that Seattle has to offer, but we couldn't bring the community in because we had no space. It was real nooks and crannies in our building, you know, some duct tape and a lot of love, right? And we're excited to be able to invite the community in, to hopefully share our space, open our doors. We actually built the building with the intention of being able to provide part of the space to be used for the community. And as we think about expanding our facilities, we want to continue to do that. So that's what we're probably most excited about. It's going to be a great future for the school.
This sounds amazing. Make sure folks know, because you guys got the grand opening coming up this weekend. Tell us about those details. You can look right there, and also let folks know how they can connect with SGS and with you if maybe they have a young scholar and they're looking to bring them to SGS.
Wonderful. Yes. So our grand opening is this Saturday. That is the 27th, and it's from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at our campus at Massachusetts and 25th. You can find us at our website, www.seattlegirlschool.org. We're going to be there all day. We have a big program. We'll be cutting the ribbon right around 10:30, but you can join us and see a tour, meet some of the people. I'll be there. I'd love to see any of you stop by. Thanks for taking some time to learn more about Seattle Girls School.
Miss Brenda Leaks, thank you for bringing your brilliance here to Seattle to grace the halls of SGS. And thank you so much for your intentional approach. I look forward to connecting with you more as things are developing at SGS. This is a place where you can come and bring that information for sure.
Yes.
Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you.
Oh, it's so